The 2023 MLB season was great for a lot of fan bases and players across the game of baseball. The Rangers overcame countless injuries to make the playoffs. I mean, heck, we even saw Cody Bellinger bounce back and become prime Cody Bellinger all over again. He was amazing this year. Just unfortunately, you can't say the same about the players and teams we're going to talk about in today's video. Now, before we talk about all of the disappointing players and teams, a quick reminder, if you're going to any playoff games, make sure to use code Fuzzy to save 20 bucks off on SeatGeek. And also, promo code Fuzzy on Underdog Fantasy will get you a $100 deposit match, so don't miss out on free money. Now, I do have to give you guys some honorable mentions because I know I'm going to get some comments. Why is Andres Gimenez not on this list, or Jose Abreu? I will be honest with you, as a Guardians fan, I did not expect Andres to replicate a 150 OPS plus season like he had in 2022. So 15 home runs, 30 stolen bases, sick defense. I can't be that mad. Jose Abreu went the first 50 games of 2023 without hitting a home run, so the fact that he ended up with 18 home runs and 90 RBIs, at least he was good down the stretch and when it mattered the most for the Astros. So I can't be too mad at him either. And a team like the San Francisco Giants, they're kind of the team version of Andres Gimenez. They severely overachieved in 2022. No one expected them to be better in 2023, but maybe that's just me. The first player in today's video, it almost feels like the funeral service for Tony Stark in Endgame. What the heck happened to Jesse Winker? I feel like we should have a funeral service and mourn the loss of Jesse Winker because the aliens from Space Jam must have come down and zapped his powers because he hit 199 with 1 home run and 166 at-bats. He's bottom 1% in sprint speed. I hate to be completely mean and sound like a hater, but Jesse Winker was basically useless, not only in 2022, but 2023 as well. He's not good anymore. I don't know what happened to Alek Manoah. Maybe those same aliens from Space Jam zapped the powers of Alek Manoah, but he ended his season completely kicked off the Blue Jays. He was sent to the AAA system, and he didn't even report and play any games for AAA. He essentially said, hey, if Patrick Corbin is allowed to figure it out in the big leagues, why can't I? I'm better than Patrick Corbin. But they said, no, you got to figure it out in the minors. He didn't report, and Alek Manoah made me look stupid because I picked him to lead the American League in ERA. He was my ERA champ, and he completely wet the bed. You guys remember when Alek Manoah said pressure is not something that he feels, it's something that you put in tires? Okay, we're going to talk about two Angels back-to-back, Anthony Rendon and Patrick Sandoval. Defensively, Anthony Rendon was terrible. On the bases, Anthony Rendon was terrible. Staying healthy, Anthony Rendon was yet again terrible, and not putting his hands on fans, also terrible. He was bad at everything this year. Factoring in his terrible 2023, Anthony Rendon since 2021 has only played in 148 games, and in those 148 games, he's hitting .235 with a 94 OPS plus. He's been terrible. And then it got really weird towards the end of the season. He was simply dodging media or saying he doesn't speak English. So Anthony Rendon kind of slapping his own fan base in the face. He has not earned the right as an Angels player, in my opinion, to be as nonchalant and whimsical as he's been. After seeing what Patrick Sandoval did in 2022, he had a 2.91 ERA in 27 starts. He had a shutout as well. And then he compounded that with a sick WBC. I genuinely thought that Patrick Sandoval was about to rival Ohtani as the Angels ace, but he wasn't even close. He had a 4.11 ERA, and the strikeouts dipped. Everything got worse. The strikeouts went down, the walks went up, the hits per 9 went up. Patrick Sandoval, I mean, I think that he still has talent, but he was not good in 2023. He was very disappointing. One of the most forgotten players in baseball, Kris Bryant, he finished 2023 with a negative WAR on Baseball Reference. He hit .233 when he plays a lot of his games at Coors, and he finished the season with a 76 OPS plus. He was 24% worse than the average hitter. And when you consider the fact that he made $28 million to have a 78 OPS plus, and he's only played in 122 games since joining the Rockies last season, he's been very disappointing as well. I almost kind of feel bad for putting Carlos Rodon in today's video because I really feel like his shoulder was compromised coming into the season, and the Yankees said, hey, we paid you a ton of money. You're kind of our wild card if we're going to make the playoffs or not, and he just ended up stinking it up. In 14 games with the Yankees, Carlos Rodon finished with a 6.85 ERA, and in his latest start, he did not record a single out. He went exactly 0 innings with 6 base hits allowed, 8 runs, and 2 walks. Again, he recorded 0 outs against the lowly Kansas City Royals. But let me just remind you, in his previous 55 games before he became a Yankee, Carlos Rodon had a 2.6 ERA and a 12.5 strikeouts per 9, so he's still really good. I just think that shoulder issue made him useless. I'm going to give Javier Baez a little bit of credit. He was a defensive wizard yet again, so we can always kind of tip our cap that El Mago is going to be a wizard at shortstop. But offensively, I mean, he was basically bottom 20% in everything. He was bottom 3% in taking walks because he's Javier Baez. He's going to swing at sliders in the other batter's box and not even think twice about it. That's just what he does. Javier Baez hit 222 with 9 home runs and a 592 OPS. I didn't think that it could get worse from 2022. Oh yeah, it got way worse. This is going to sound very disrespectful, but at one point do you kind of look yourself in the mirror and say, I suck, whatever I'm doing is not working? I mean, he turned in a 62 OPS plus with a 267 on base percentage. He's got to go back in the lab and spend every single waking moment of the offseason trying not to chase pitches. He should just be taking BP every second of the day. Shout out to Luis Severino for ending 2023 on a high note, but man, the fact that he ended the season on a high note and lowered his ERA to the fact that he lowered his ERA to 6.65, he had a negative 1.5 WAR. I mean, everything that could go wrong for the Yankees pitching staff pretty much did. They lost Nestor Cortez, Rodon was a bum, Luis Severino was a bum for the majority of the season. I'm not going to spend too much more time on Luis Severino because I do kind of feel bad. I think that he was injured throughout the season as well, but he had to go out there and eat innings. It just wasn't a good attempt at it. It brings me great sadness to say that Oscar Gonzalez, aka SpongeBob, was maybe the worst player in baseball this season. He turned in a negative 1.4 WAR on Baseball Reference. He had 173 at-bats, which is a decent sample size. He only had 2 home runs. He hit 214 on the season with a horrific 239 on base percentage. And this is just a few months removed after having 27 doubles and 11 home runs in just 91 games in 2022. He had that walk-off home run in the playoffs against the Rays. I thought that he was going to break out even more, but man, he stunk. Just like Jesse Winker, I feel like I shouldn't even say any words about Madison Bumgarner. I should just hold a funeral service. I mean, Adam Wainwright, he's not going to be in today's video either because he should have retired last year, but Madison Bumgarner, he's still just 34 years old. Like, he just turned 34 years old. He's not out of his prime just yet, but he had a 10.3 ERA. Wow. Oh no. Madison Bumgarner made $23 million to basically pitch like if you and I were out there on the bump. Wow. I can't remember exactly how many games it took Tim Anderson to hit a home run in 2023, but it took forever. I mean, he had 1 home run with a 245 batting average. We're talking about Tim Anderson, TA7. He hit 301 in 2022 and 309 in 2021. The OPS was sitting at 582 for the entire season of 2023. He was buns again defensively. The sprint speed suffered as well, and he doesn't take any walks. So if he's not getting on base, if he's not hitting singles, he's not a very good baseball player, and that showed in 2023, and just ask Jose Ramirez. Tim Anderson was just not there mentally in 2023. I genuinely and wholeheartedly believe that Jack Flaherty was going to bounce back in a big way for the Cardinals, and just did not happen. It was his 27-year-old season, so I'm thinking, hey, he might be healthy. He's turning 27. He's going to turn the corner. He was not good for the Cardinals, and then it got even worse for the Orioles after he got traded. He was demoted to the bullpen. He was not happy about that. He was basically pouting, but in 34 innings as an Oriole after having a 4.5... But in 34 innings as an Oriole, after putting up a 4.5 ERA for the Cardinals, he turned in a 6.75 ERA because he gave up 26 runs in 34 innings. Stinky. Stinky, stinky, stinky. Some Twins fans might be upset that I'm putting Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. We'll talk about Byron Buxton in just a second in today's video, but to be honest, Correa, he got all that money. I know that plantar fasciitis played a big part in him not performing, but even though he was sick defensively, offensively, wow. He only had a 230 batting average and a 94 OPS plus. So a lot of people might say, you know, a 94 OPS plus, that's only 6% worse than the average hitter. Well, Carlos Correa had a 138 OPS plus in 2022, a 131 OPS plus in 2021. When you regress that badly, you got to make the most disappointing players list. Even though he's a captain, he was great defensively. Yeah, he was disappointing. He also grounded into a whopping, I mean, this almost made my jaw drop, 30 double plays in 2023 that easily led the league. I'm going to tip my cap just a little bit to Dylan Cease because at least he ended the season on fire. He went 7 shutout with 11 strikeouts versus the Red Sox, and then he went 5 innings with 7 strikeouts, only 1 run against the Padres. But even though he threw back-to-back gems to end the season, doing that lowered his ERA to 4.58. Now we know that Dylan Cease, he's going to strike out guys left and right, so the strikeout numbers were there. That kind of helped out his FIP. But when you go from a 2.2 ERA to a 4.6 ERA because everything regressed, the strikeouts went down, the walks went up, the home runs per 9 went up, the hits per 9 went up. Dylan Cease, he was very hittable, and he just could not locate either. He led the league yet again in wild pitches. Listen, Byron Buxton is one of my favorite players in baseball because when he's right and healthy, he is a near 5-tool player. I can't really give him 5-tool because the batting average is never going to be there because he strikes out way too much, but for this season's sake, he was injured again. He only hit 207, and if we take a look at the OPS plus, it was at 98, so he was 2% worse than the average hitter. He did have 17 home runs in 85 games, so the power, it's going to be there with Byron Buxton, but he can't stay on the field. Michael A. Taylor luckily saved the Twins defensively because Byron Buxton has turned into that meme from SpongeBob, that guy where his bones are made of glass. That's Byron Buxton, and I hate saying that, but he's been disappointing yet again because he can't stay on the field. I'm going to sound like a jerk when I say Jameson Taillon did not deserve the contract that he got from the Cubs. I feel like the Cubs kind of got desperate. 4 years, $68 million. I didn't even think that Jameson was good with the Yankees despite him starting off pretty hot. Yes, he had a 3.91 ERA over the course of 2022, but Yankees fans will tell you when it mattered the most, Jameson Taillon was not very good. Ironically, his best start in 2023 came against the Yankees, but in 30 starts, he had a 4.9 ERA. He was not good. Jameson Taillon was a bum. I know it probably sounds like I'm getting personal, but I'm just trying to put it into words how bad some of these guys were. I like Jameson Taillon, the person. I would have a beer with him, but as a pitcher, no. Get him away. I really hope that this is not the case, but me thinks that Father Time has finally found Starlin Marte. Starlin Marte, he was avoiding Father Time like crazy. I mean, in 2022, he was an all-star because he hit 292 with 16 home runs, 18 stolen bases. He played great defense. He had a 132 OPS plus. That dipped all the way to a 73 OPS plus in 2023. He only hit 248, and he had 5 home runs in 86 games. So across the board, Starlin Marte, he looked old. Let me just go ahead and read off the final games for Brady Singer in 2023. He gave up 6 runs, then 4 runs, then 6 runs, then 6 runs, then 4 runs with 8 base hits and 6 innings to close out the season. Brady Singer had a just mind-melting and otherworldly bad 5.52 ERA in 29 innings. So at least he was kind of Jordan Lyles-esque where he was going to be awful, but he was going to eat innings and really save the bullpen. I mean, this is a couple months after having a 3.2 ERA in 2022, and that was over 153 innings. So Brady Singer was very good just a season ago, and then he just completely fell off a cliff. A near 6 ERA in 160 innings. That's just not going to cut it. But then again, he's still young. He's going to be 27 years old going into 2024. Maybe he bounces back because it seems like he has a good year, then a bad year, a good year, and then a bad year. So that does it for all of my most disappointing players. If you feel like I forgot anyone, let me know in the comments down below, and let's talk about the most disappointing teams. The teams are going to be a whole lot easier to go over because we kind of already know who the most disappointing teams were. First and foremost, the Padres. On paper, they had one of the most talented rosters I've ever seen, but when it came to being clutch in high leverage moments, they were terrible. So they went 2-12 in extra inning games. They went 9 for 23 in one-run games. As a team, they barely hit 200 in high leverage moments. So basically, like I said, when it came to being clutch, they were terrible. They were trying to yank home runs, and they took forever to look themselves in the face and say, hey, our ego has got to be set aside. We got to play as a team, and they took way too long. Even though they were really good down the stretch, it was too late. The near $400 million disaster, you could close your eyes and pretty much guess who we're about to talk about. The New York Mets. Max Scherzer, he regressed. Justin Verlander, the strikeouts were down. The walks were up. We already talked about Starlin Marte regressing severely. Brett Baty, he was not able to step up and be what we thought he was going to be. Jeff McNeil. I mean, heck, even Jeff McNeil could have made the first portion of the video talking about the most disappointing players, and actually, I think I forgot about him, and Mets fans are going to let me know about it, but overall, the Mets, the vibes were off. A lot of people have been saying that Pete Alonso is going to get shipped because he doesn't really vibe and mesh with the clubhouse. I don't believe that at all because players started coming out in support of him, but Pete Alonso might not even be on the Mets in 2024 because how bad it got this year. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, everything that could go wrong for the 2023 Yankees went wrong. Nestor Cortez, Frankie Montez never came back. Luis Severino was terrible. Carlos Rodon was terrible. Aaron Judge, because of the wall in right field in Dodger Stadium, he missed out on potentially breaking his home run record from a season ago. He was putting up insane numbers and still put up insane numbers despite missing 50 or 60 plus games. So for me, a lot of the reasons why the Yankees are making today's video is simple. Regression. I mean, we could talk about their rookies like Oswald Peraza not breaking out until the end of the season. There's not really one person to blame aside from maybe Brian Cashman. Can Brian Cashman be held accountable at least once in his life, please? Despite going 43-30, so 13 games above 500 in the second half, the Mariners, they crumbled to end the season and they saw their playoff hopes slip away. J-Rod, he went ballistic in the second half, same with J.P. Crawford, but slow starts to a lot of their star players, including J-Rod. I mean, let's face it, J-Rod was painfully average for the first half of the season. I want you guys to look away and guess the team I'm about to talk about before you look at the highlights. Pitching. Oh, and did I mention more pitching? The St. Louis Cardinals were an absolute travesty when it came to pitchers not allowing runs in 2023. Adam Wainwright, again, he's not going to be in this video because I feel like he should have been retired. He just wanted 200 wins as badly as he needed to breathe. Miles Mikolas was decent down the stretch, but Jack Flaherty, he was a bum. Adam Wainwright, he was a bump. I mean, there's countless other guys that we can talk about. The reason why I picked the Cardinals to miss the playoffs at the beginning of this year, and Cardinals fans were irate at me. They were so mad as, we're gonna make it. No, you're not, because your pitching stinks. And finally, a team that is near and dear to my heart, the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, it was time for Terry Francona to leave. I love what Tito did. Thank you for all of your efforts and services, but he made some of the worst roster moves I've ever seen in my life. You let Ahmed Rosario and Miles Straw get 300 plus at-bats. I mean, the rookie management with Brian Rocchio, Gabriel Arias, Tyler Freeman. I mean, it was just bad. Kind of an embarrassing, pathetic season, minus Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor and Tanner Bybee and some of the other rookie pitchers. Just all around a bad season, a season from hell for the 2023 Guardians. And then last but certainly not least, the Angels. I just feel so bad for them considering it wasn't really even their fault. The season started quite nicely with Logan O'Hoppe looking like the rookie of the year. Then Logan O'Hoppe tore his shoulder in Yankee Stadium. Tyler Anderson, he was terrible. Patrick Sandoval regressed. A lot of other guys regressed. And also injuries to Max Stassi, Logan O'Hoppe, Ohtani, Trout, Moniak, Adele, Taylor Ward, because Alek Manoah doesn't know how to throw a baseball. Half their squad was on the IL towards the second half of the season, and again, I just feel terrible for them, and the fact that they didn't trade Ohtani, I feel even worse. I'm sorry. So that does it for today's video. If I missed any players or teams, if they slipped through the cracks, maybe someone like Jeff McNeil, let me know in the comments. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys want to see a part 2 where we talk about the most surprising teams and players, let's try and get this video to 2,000 likes, and I'll catch you guys soon for another video. Be safe.